Airplanes are one of the most important means of transportation made by man, and the most important reason for this safety is the amount of technology present in airplanes. But of course, despite this, accidents never end, and the strangest of all are disappearance accidents. The idea that an airplane disappears with all this technology, radars, satellites, and stations. Surveillance is a subject that is not fully understood. What is it? It has not happened once or twice since the first time a disappearance incident was recorded in 1948. 83 planes have disappeared to this day. First of all, the Malaysian Airlines Boeing 777, specifically Flight 370, is the most famous plane disappearance in history. What helped make this incident famous was that it happened in the era of social media and the spread of news. In addition, it has the largest number of victims in plane disappearances. There were 239 people on board. And what is also strange is that the efforts to search for the plane or even its wreckage are the largest efforts throughout history in terms of the area that was crossed or the number of crews that participated in the search. The search efforts were participated in by 20 countries together for a period of 3 continuous years. But unfortunately, the result was nothing. It took off. The plane left Kuala Lumpur Airport, the capital of Malaysia, on March 8, 2014, and was heading from Malaysia to Beijing. However, about 40 minutes after takeoff, a series of mysterious events began. There was no wreckage, no requests from the hijackers, no signal on the radar or even the satellite. After a year and 3 months of the accident, a piece of the right wing was found, which was believed to be part of the plane. From that time until a year ago, 2,833 pieces were found, all of which are suspected to be parts of the plane, and the Malaysian authorities are almost certain that this is indeed the plane. But despite that, no international investigation body has settled the matter to this day. Amelia Earhart is a famous American aviator who holds a number of records, such as being I am a human who flies across the Atlantic Ocean, and was the first woman to make a solo trip around the United States of America in addition to several other records preserved in her name in the records, and for this reason the day came when she decided to be the first woman in history to fly around the entire world, and on June 1, 1937, the journey began. Over the course of a whole month, Captain Amelia was about to achieve what was required, and on July 2, 1937, she arrived at the city of La in Papua New Guinea. The only stops left for her to return to the starting point were Howland Island, and after that she would reach the state of Texas. Howland Island is an uninhabited tropical island in the Pacific Ocean, located approximately halfway between the continent of Oceanusa or Australia and the continent of America. Up to this station, everything was fine, and Amelia and her assistant, Farid Noonan, received all the instructions from the ground control station. But suddenly, without any distress message or report of a problem, Amelia disappeared with her plane forever, and without explanation, and all efforts to find Amelia remained unsuccessful. The Flight 19 of American officer Charles Teller. The story begins on May 5. December 1945, that is, during the last months of World War II, and the trip was basically a training mission for new pilots under the leadership of Commander Charles Taylor. From the base at Fort Lauderdale in Florida, 5 bombers went out for training with the commander, who had 2,500 hours of flying experience, and the first phase of the mission passed with all the 3 new pilots were destined to drop the training bombs and complete their mission. In the end, the communication was cut off and the 5 planes disappeared. Within minutes, 2 rescue planes took off and headed to the estimated location where Flight 19 was supposed to be. But with the passage of time and the fear that the fuel would run out, one of the rescue planes returned and the second also disappeared. 6 planes disappeared without any clear reason. Of course, at that time the search operations did not stop and included scanning a section of the Atlantic Ocean with an area of 500,000 square meters. And over the course of 5 continuous days of searching, not even a single oil slick or life raft was found. This accident occurred over the area known as the Bermuda Triangle, and this accident was the main reason for the emergence of the Bermuda Triangle legend that we all know, and from that day on, the conspiracy theory began to spread like wildfire. The trip ended one of the strangest plane disappearances ever occurred on January 30, 1979. Flight 967 of the Brazilian airline Varig took off. The flight's mission was to transport goods from Narita Airport in Japan to Los Angeles, USA. The flight's leader, Captain Gilberto Arroyo da Silva, was one of the most skilled pilots on the planet. He was able to land the plane successfully in a field near Paris. But despite all this experience, the cargo plane, Flight 967, disappeared only 20 minutes after taking off, and there were 43 people on board. A human being, and although the naval and air forces searched the area for 8 days, they did not find any trace of wreckage, goods, or passengers. A large plane loaded with goods and a first-class expert captain, and only 20 minutes of flying, meaning the search distance was supposed to be limited, and yet there was no trace. The only explanation for the disappearance is, the strange thing about this plane is that it was hijacked by Soviet fighter jets. The reason for this claim is that there was an incident that happened 3 years before, which is that the Soviet pilot Viktor Belenko escaped to Japan in the most modern plane the Soviets had at the time, which was the MiG-25, and it is said that after he arrived in Japan, he dismantled the plane and then traveled to America and requested political asylum. That is why the proponents of this theory say that the cargo plane and the Captain Gilberto were carrying this dismantled cargo plane 25 and were going to the United States of America. But the Russian KGB discovered the matter and hijacked the plane together. But the passengers of the aircraft were heading to South Vietnam to train the South Vietnamese forces during the Vietnam War. America supported South Vietnam, and the Soviet Union supported North Vietnam. This flight, which later became known as Tiger Line 739, would begin its journey from Travis Air Force Base in California and then pass through a number of refueling stations, including Hawaii, Wake Island, Guam, and finally the Philippines. In the end, they would arrive in Saigon. The fame of this incident is due to the fact that it was in 1962, meaning during the Cold War. At that time, it was clear to the whole world that the Soviets were superior to the Americans in the manufacture of missiles and space projects, while America was superior in the aviation industry. That is why the whole situation was strange. A plane disappears with 107 people on it without any trace. This is a very strange incident on its own. But it remained. If the Soviets were the reason for this disappearance, then this means that they are superior to America in aviation as well. And that is why the incident turned into one of the most famous disappearance incidents ever.